Myles Garrett has requested a trade. Cue the John Lynch gif. And Steph is back from Mobile, and we'll talk about our favorite players in the Senior Bowl and who are fits for the San Francisco 49ers. Stick around right after this. Say that's Steph Sanchez. This is the Bully Ball Podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Steph, how was Mobile?
Mobile was great, man. It was great. Missed you out there. It's been a couple years now since you were out there, but yeah, no, it was great because we still had a pretty good, Niners contingent out there. We had Brad, Johnny, Wayne, so it was great. I do have to say, like, the one plus of the 49ers not being in the playoffs is that we dived into the draft pretty early, right? So I felt better prepared, and I was just telling Rob that I got a chance to do my homework on these guys, and so I didn't feel lost going into it. I knew what to expect, and I knew some of the guys that I kind of liked going into it, who to look out for. So it was great. It was productive. Got to interview a few players, got to know some players who met with the 49ers, and in some case, some players who met with them twice. So it was great, and can't wait for next year.
Yeah, and you know what? Unfortunately, we did have to dive into draft stuff early. I remember getting into it right after the Seattle loss. Once I saw Geno Smith go night, I was like, all right, yeah, this season's cooked. So I'm just going like, yeah, I just love the people that were still trying to convince themselves, well, they're still in it. No, they're cooked. Like,
Exactly.
And that's it. We're just getting right into draft stuff. But yeah, and I do want to say the one thing that I am really happy that they brought back was they brought back the film of the practices, the drills, the reps, everything finally. So although I wasn't there, I was able to watch all of those things over and over again. So it is cool. And I do want to get to some of the stuff that you covered down there and the people that you met with, because it coincides with people that I was impressed with as well, too. So that's going to be interesting. But no off season is complete without a crazy trade request. And we've got two. Well, we've got two back to back, and one's a trade request. And one was a team letting Cooper Kupp know, we're getting rid of you as well, too. We have the Luka Doncic trade to the Lakers, which I don't know how to correlate to NFL terms, because that feels like trading Lamar Jackson for like a good defensive tackle. Like it doesn't correlate in my mind how to put that together. And then you have the Cooper Kupp news, but Myles Garrett wants out of Cleveland. And I want to preface this because everyone's going to start with, you can't afford Myles Garrett. Well, let's knock that one out, because yes, you can. Because his cap hits are very low for the next 2 years. And if you believe what Jeremy Fowler said on ESPN, it's not about money. He wants to win. So when you look at some of the teams that are going to be available and in the running, and there it is. I mean, the easiest way to get engagement on 49ers Twitter is whenever there's a player that's available, just post a John Lynch spinning gif. Like, it is literally it's like a layup. It is a layup. It works every time. But I want to knock out the idea that Myles Garrett won't be here because of salary cap. So let's get rid of that one. The salary cap, if I'm not mistaken, it's about a $6 million hit for the next 2 years. Nick Bosa's real big cap hit doesn't toll until 2-3 years from down the line. So, Steph, what gets this conversation started? I know that the title of this is, would you trade Brock Purdy to get Myles Garrett? Let me get mine off and say no, I'm not doing that, right? But what would you start with pick 11?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Browns, 2 first-round picks would probably be the conversation starter, if I had to guess, because I think also where it all starts is, okay, do the Browns actually want to trade Myles Garrett? And to this point, they have adamantly said no, right? And of course, that can change. They could be driving up the price and whatnot, getting teams a call and fielding all of those. But, that comes first and foremost. They don't have to necessarily grant this trade request. And, if they're going to make it happen, it has to work out for them. And so I think that's where it gets a little tricky for me. On the 49ers end, it's like, hell yeah, let's do this yesterday. But for the Browns, I believe I saw that if they were to trade Myles Garrett before June 1st, it'd be a crazy dead cap hit for them. And we already know they're in cap hell. So that wouldn't really work out for them. There's like just no incentive for them to do that, really. If they were to trade him after June 1st, there's a little added flexibility. It would still cost them quite a bit of money, but again, for the team acquiring him, that's then where it becomes interesting if they do the June 1st, post June 1st thing. And as Jason Fitzgerald of Over the Cap said, the team acquiring Garrett, if a trade was made in the summer, would be responsible for $14.8 million this year and $25 million next year. All right, so that 6.3 number that we've been throwing around, I think that's only for pre-June 1st, which, as we're talking about, would not work well for the Browns.
And I think that's just a cap hit, if I'm not mistaken. Like, that's what it's not his salary. That's what it would like cost. Again, there's dead cap hit. There's cap hit. How much of this costs? Like Nick Bosa is making a ton of money, but his cap hit isn't huge, right? Like, and again, that's why the salary cap is so hard to cipher. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, another thing that he throws out there is that he kind of thinks, and I'm talking about Jason Fitzgerald here, is that he thinks that the team would have to extend Garrett, and maybe not immediately, right? But maybe after a season. That would be the expectation, which then, that muddies the waters a little bit, I think, for the 49ers, in which how do we fit him in? Because obviously he'd be looking for top of the market or close to that type of contract, in which he would be very much deserving of, but not sure how that fits in with the 49ers. So like yesterday, I was very gung-ho on this Myles Garrett trade. I do think the 49ers will be on the phone and, trying any way to make it work for them. And obviously for the Browns as well. But I do think that after some thought, I don't know how feasible it is. I think obviously with any trade of this magnitude, it would take a lot of compromise from both sides to truly get it done.
Yeah, for sure. And again, we're just talking purely from, if you want to win, the 49ers have shown that they're going to check in on everybody, right? They checked in on Justin Jefferson, right? Like during that contract time, and that's something that's completely unfeasible in your head, right? But they are going to do their due diligence. So if you think the 49ers are not going to call, you're probably sadly mistaken. Now, it does take two to tango. And that's the other part. I don't want 49er fans to get upset if either Myles Garrett stays or he moves somewhere else and say, well, why didn't you trade? Both sides have to say yes. It's not Madden where I propose a trade and I just put, take off user settings and I get them back, right? That part. The only thing I want to throw in a little bit is the Cleveland Browns might be in a situation where the football gods might be blessing them because of the reason they're in cap hell, by the way, is because of that horrific albatross of a contract with Deshaun Watson.
Speak on it.
But,
Speak on it.
But they might be getting out of that contract, and I don't know if you guys know, he tore his other Achilles, which puts him completely out. But what I'm referring to is there's TikTok videos of him and his girlfriend, and he's walking around with no support or anything like that. So there is a way that maybe there's a grievance for the Browns to go to the NFL and say, hey, man, this is an injury that happened outside of the building. He's on TikTok doing this, this, and this. You might be able to get out of that. And if you do, then it's just a complete void of all the contract and everything as well, too. How likely is that? I don't know. But it is something that the Browns, you have to explore. You not only have paid this horrific person a bunch of money and guaranteed and did it by yourself. He's been one of the worst quarterbacks in football. And on top of that, now you have a chance, like this golden ticket, to try to get out of all of it. I would exhaust every single avenue trying to get out of this, right? And now, here's the thing. When you look at it and putting the tinfoil hat on, the Browns can do something that really, really makes sense. You move Garrett and then replace him with Abdul Carter. And now you've got a cheaper, again, I'm not saying that Abdul Carter is going to be Myles Garrett, but my God, being able to get a cheap guy like that right away before you have to pay him resets your position. So, Look, there's a lot of moving parts here right now. It's early on. Again, obviously, you see a name like Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is the best edge player in the NFL, hands down. I don't want arguments. Not TJ Watt, not Nick Bosa, not Michael Parsons. No. But he is the best. And the 49ers have been known to tap in with teams of other superstars, right? Again, I mentioned the Justin Jefferson thing. I think that all caught us by surprise, especially when you're considering that they were going through what they were going through with Ayuk. Is it likely that this happens? I don't think so. But the 49ers are absolutely going to exhaust as many options as they can and do their due diligence, as they always do, right, Steph?
Yeah, absolutely. And they have, 10 picks in this draft, and they have the ammo. They can do it. And I think, there's always that question of, is this player worth giving up that much? Yes, and yes, in all caps, I think it makes a lot of sense from the 49ers standpoint. They are going to, like I said, I think they would make that call. And then Rob in our private chat asked, would you rather the 49ers get Max Crosby or Myles Garrett? That's an easy one. I mean, Jay just literally asked, or said, Myles Garrett is the best edge rusher in all of football. So that answers your question. I'd rather have Myles Garrett, and I'd be willing to pay whatever price it is to make that happen, right? But I'd take either, right? Like, if one doesn't work out,
it's not a bad consolation prize. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think we know that the 49ers are going to be aggressive this offseason, particularly when it comes to retooling the defense. I mean, you got Saleh back. That isn't for nothing. You have to bring better personnel. And I mean, quite frankly, I think they kind of owe it to him to get some better personnel in there. And I think he's going to have a large influence as to how this offseason goes and who they bring in. And so I think they are going to not just do the due diligence, but they're going to make sure, in my opinion, they're going to make sure they're one of the finalists for any of these top guys, right? As they should be, especially because you've been trying to find someone who's not equally as impactful than Nick Bosa. I don't think you need someone as impactful, but you need someone. If you can get someone more impactful than Nick Bosa, and that is an option that's available to you, which it is with Myles Garrett, then absolutely. Like, it's really a no-brainer from the 49ers standpoint. And I'd have no problem giving up, up to 2 firsts for it. The question is, at his age, he's 29, right? I've seen some people, pause because of that. And it's
he's a geezer, Steph.
He's so good. Like, who cares? Like, he's right. He is going to be better at 29, 30, 31 than any rookie that you bring in. Like,
he's got 4 elite years in him left. Easy, hands down. So the whole 29 thing, you guys are making it seem like he's 72. No, and you're not talking about the average 29-year-old. See, this is the part, right? Like, I wouldn't give all that up for an edge. You're not trading for an edge. You're trading for Myles Garrett. And it's the same thing that we were saying, like, you don't trade for running backs. You didn't trade for a running back. You traded for Christian McCaffrey, right? It's not black and white when it comes to positional value, where it's just like, you can't. When it's a player of this magnitude, you take that sheet and you throw it out, right? Like, it's not the same thing. So the Unfaithful Perspective says, if the Niners acquire Max Crosby, I suppose the Crosby-Bosa tandem would have been called the Axis Powers seems the most fitting. I'm not touching this one with a 10-foot pole, Steph. I'm gonna let you comment on it.
I don't even know what that is. So
good.
I figured it's a good thing that I don't know.
Yeah. Good. We're here to talk football. Let's stick to sports here. The other thing is this too is the 49ers absolutely have to retool the defensive line, and there's different ways to go about it, right? Like. I floated the idea of signing Azeez Ojulari. That's somebody that is a young guy that can get in here and be an edge right away. And then you have BJ Hill, who can play defensive tackle. Now, those are free agent targets, right? And then there's the guys at the Senior Bowl who jumped out, and we're going to talk about that. And then there's the draft. There's different ways, and this is what makes this offseason so exciting. There's different ways for the 49ers to go about this. There's no one way. There's no paint by numbers way to retool the defensive line because you absolutely need it. Obviously, Javon Hargrave is going to be on the move. You can't rely on Jordan Elliott and Malik Collins and Yetur Gross-Matos and, Drake Jackson, right? Like, you've got to get guys in here in a heartbeat. Now, whether they're through the draft, whether it's through free agency, they've got to be impact guys right away. And that's what Saleh, coming back here is signifying. It's not, it's going to take us a little while to find our footing. It's no, we're hitting the ground running. So how do you do that, right? Like
Have to.
that's the part. That's the part. So whichever way they decide to go, which is, the draft, fine, whatever, free agency, it's got to be guys that are going to be here right away that are going to just, go and flip this defense. And there's obviously some Senior Bowl targets that we're going to talk about as well too. But, I'm just, again, when there's a player like Myles Garrett who is available, pick 11 is going to get you on the phone right off the bat, right? Think about the Indianapolis Colts, what they gave up for DeForest Buckner. Think about how good DeForest Buckner was. Think about how much better Myles Garrett is. So, right, pick 11, even at his age, is not that bad, right? So, pick 11, maybe pick 2. You have all your comp picks as well, too. There's nobody you're going to take at pick 11 that's going to impact your game, your team, like Myles Garrett, right? And there is a little bit of the Rams' philosophy, like you take the crapshoot of the draft out by getting someone that I know for a fact is going to be here and be a stud. And that's the part where everyone just thinks, oh, well, draft picks, you don't value them. No, it's if we're worried about whether this player will bust or they won't, let's get rid of that and let's just get us a guy who's a guy, a dude, a stud, and I think that's the part that's about it. Alberto Soto says, I will go out to get that Super Bowl next season as a fan. I would not care if we don't see the playoffs for a while. If we go get that 6th ring, I want to witness a Niners Super Bowl in my lifetime. I do think there is a little bit of urgency in this front office this year, and they are pushing the envelope as far as they can. Wouldn't you say? Like, and I'm just going based off vibe stuff.
Absolutely, and I think they know they have to get this done. Like, they've been so close for so long, and it's like, what are you waiting on? Like, they've taken the safe route, I think, for the most part. With the moves they've made and putting themselves in this position, I think they're ready to go like Rams full F them picks mode. And I think they should be, because, as Alberto says, I think this is the year that you do have to go all in. You got Robert Saleh back, and that was, maybe a little luck on your side with that one working out. But you're not going to have Saleh for, 5+ years. This is maybe a 1-year thing. If you're lucky, it could be 2. So I think you got to maximize that. And that Saleh on the defensive side is going to give you one of the best chances you've had in the last few years, at least on that side of the ball. And so I think you got to make sure that, like we said, the personnel is up to par with a Super Bowl competing team. And I think, the offense as well, which I think, last year they did focus on the offense a little bit more in the draft, picking up 2 wide receivers. You got Dominic Pooney. So I think they're good. Like, and Kyle has a lot of confidence in what, he could do on offense when he doesn't have to worry about the defense, especially. So I think, they got to go all in. I think they're going to be like super aggressive. And frankly, like it starts with this Myles Garrett thing. We're going to hear 31 teams are going to be interested in Myles Garrett, and they're going to make a call. But like I said, I do think the 49ers are going to be one of those reported teams that are finalists.
Yeah.
And hopefully the one,
so.
one to make it happen.
I'm tired of being a finalist. I'm tired of being, never the bride, always the bridesmaid.
Man.
Here's the thing as well, too. Don't discount the 49ers looking around and seeing who made the Super Bowl again this year as like, oh, we definitely have to get back now, because the Eagles are in the Super Bowl again after a down year, right? Which included a playoff berth. So if that's a down year, whatever, sign me up. But how quickly they were able to get back. Now, it was a combination of, everyone wants to give credit to Nick Sirianni. I don't. I give credit to Howie Roseman. I think he's the real genius. Like, I don't think Sirianni does anything. But it's between you getting yourself Saquon Barkley, but then you draft Jalen Carter, you draft Nolan Smith, and then the Zach Bond signing, and then you bring in, Vic Fangio, you draft Cooper DeJean. Like, they reloaded that roster. Yeah. Could you imagine Oren Burks on this 49ers defense? No. Could you imagine him on this defense?
I need the jersey swap.
Yeah. Somebody get us an Oren Burks 49ers, because I got him at the top of my list, free agents wise. But and then the other thing is the Eagles are the archetype of all these high profile players and how you're paying them. You're not paying AJ Brown peanuts. You're not paying Devonta Smith peanuts. You signed Saquon Barkley. You're paying Jalen Hurts. how is it that other teams are able to do it, right? So there is a blueprint. I'm not saying the 49ers are trying to be the Eagles, but they're looking around and you see the Eagles have one down year and they're in 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. So don't discount the fact that this is turning into an arms race now, and you've got to do everything you can to keep up. Because if you don't, he'll end up on the Commanders or something like that, and then all of a sudden you got yourself a bigger problem because now they're there as well too. And this tweet from Josh Dubois: if the Eagles lose a Super Bowl, Oren Burks will be the 3rd player to lose back-to-back Super Bowls to the same opponent while playing for different teams. Others, Javon Hargrave for the Eagles and 49ers, my God. Eugene Robinson for the Packers and Falcons versus the Broncos. I don't know why you brought that stat up. I just
That's tragic,
if you wanted to piss us
man.
off, you won. Yeah, God, go.
Yeah, so on that, yeah, I do agree that the Eagles have retooled their team nicely, and the testament is the fact that they're in the Super Bowl this year. So there's a couple of teams that I've liked how they've kind of not built, but like retooled, for lack of a better word. I like how the Rams have kind of approached it as well, even despite, going all in for a couple years. The way they've been able to bounce back has been impressive to be back in the conversation. And of course, having an elite quarterback does help you with that. But I think building through the draft has been huge. It's been everything for them. So that's the other side of this token as well in this conversation. It's like, well, does giving up that many picks for a Myles Garrett, like, does that hurt your long-term goals? Well, to that answer, I would just say if the Super Bowl is the only goal there is in football, and if they win one, it doesn't matter what they look like for 10 years after that. I don't care, What do you have thoughts on that, though, of people being concerned that, like you give too much and we won't be able to rebuild and we're going to look like crap for 10 years? Like, do you care about that at all?
I think that's an interesting discussion because I brought it up multiple times, right? There's you open up a bottle and the genie comes out and the genie says, you're going to win the Super Bowl this year, but you're not going to be contender for 10 years. Like, I'm not even talking about contender. You're not even going to be good.
Yeah, we talked about this before. It's like,
right. You're not even going to be good, but you get your 6th Super Bowl. Or for 10 straight years, you will be in the mix. And you're not limited to just winning one. You could win multiple Super Bowls. Do you take the guaranteed Super Bowl with the 10 years of being completely obsolete, or the 10 cracks at it and you can win more than one? So I don't necessarily believe that any trade for Myles Garrett would necessarily put the 49ers in that position, just based on the way that they've missed in the last 3 drafts before this one. They still were able to sustain themselves and be in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. They've literally whiffed on, it's like 26 picks. They've whiffed on like 24 of them. Like, it's like Brock Purdy and like 2 other guys that are like starters, but they've swung and missed on almost everybody before this last draft. So when they've had all their picks and everything, and they still, Jair Brown looks like it's not working out right now. Jake Moody, horrible pick. Drake Jackson, bad pick. Like, they've done it before, but I don't think that a Myles Garrett trade would put them in a position where that has to happen, Steph. I really don't. I don't think it has to be either or.
I mean, I see what you're saying, because, like, yeah, you could look at past times that they've whiffed, and, the biggest whiff was Trey Lance, and they gave up a lot then. But that's my thing. Like, we're seeing the effects of that now. Still. Yeah. So, like, if you then punt some more draft picks, does it kind of combine, right? Like, and become a bigger impact down the road. But you know how I think. I know you rather contend for the 10 years, but I'm like, the only goal is a Super Bowl. So, like, and it's so hard to get a Super Bowl that I'm fine going all in on the 1 year. And if they only win one in the next 10 years, I do not care. I have not seen a Super Bowl from this team in my lifetime. Like, I have not witnessed it myself. So that's all I care about, right? And they've already been going at the other approach for 7 years, right, with no luck. So that kind of tells you how that's gone. I think it's time to kind of switch it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I've only seen one, but that doesn't count. I need an adult one where like I get like hammered drunk and run through the streets. Like I need one of those. Like
Yeah, I
as a
was
kid, it
3
doesn't
on the
count.
last one, so that don't count
Yeah.
either.
I watched the last one in a bar in the Bronx and I was only 10. Like, what do you know? Like, and like I need to get hammered after a Super Bowl.
Wait.
I mean, I've got,
Can we
Yeah.
wait? Can we rewind?
What?
You were in a bar
What?
at 10 years old?
Yeah, that's right. The only 49ers fan in there, Jerry Rice jersey. Everybody else just looking at me like me, my father. We were in there. Obviously not drinking alcohol. Let's make sure we put that out there and everything as well too. But yeah, no, look,
That's what
there's no guarantees in life. There aren't. And I agree with you. Just get it done, right? Is the way that many 49ers fans are feeling. And I don't blame them. My thing is any move for Myles Garrett doesn't necessarily put them out from, other running. Like let's put a package together. Let's do this right now. Pick 11 this year. Their second round pick next year. Maybe a third, another year, and a player. Let's say Leonard Floyd. Let's throw him in the deal so the Browns can say that they got back an edge player. Does that necessarily hold the 49ers back from being able to restock the cupboard?
No, I don't think so. And I think the 49ers are still very savvy enough with the cap that they can, make it work. I guess what you then look, I think the current state of the team, and with it being, one of the older rosters in the NFL, I think that's a direct result of the Trey Lance trade, the whiffs. So again, like, do you want to compound that? And because you're going to find yourself relying and feeling like you need to pay these older players because you don't have anyone waiting in the wings because you didn't pick any of them. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm worried about. But I do think, like I said, I'm cool going all in on Myles Garrett because I think obviously that'd make you the Super Bowl favorite. And as long as everything else can work out in their favor, that's all I care about, just winning the Super Bowl.
Garrett and Bosa would feed families. Oh my goodness, man. I don't want to get too excited. Go ahead.
By the way, I wouldn't entertain any offer that includes Bosa.
Nick Bosa, no.
We need to see both of them together.
Right.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point.
The idea isn't to trade Bosa for Garrett. That doesn't move the needle. It's to pair them. Like I've seen it a little bit. Like I'm just saying I've seen it a little bit. And I'm just like, guys, that's not the point of this. Like that's robbing Peter to pay Paul and like cutting your nose off to spite your face. Like that doesn't make sense. It has to be both of them. But hey, good talk. We almost got 30 minutes out of this. So John Lynch, if you're listening, and I know you are, get it done, pal. Whatever it takes. That movie Draft Day is super realistic. All right. Senior Bowl was really exciting this year. I thought it was better than it's been in many years for a while, and especially because now, the people that got media access, I got media access. I just couldn't make it down, but they allowed us to now pick through the one-on-ones. And what's exciting is that you had to watch everyone. You had to watch linebackers. You had to watch offensive line, defensive line. You had to watch wide receivers. You had to watch corners. You had to watch tight ends. You had to watch everything. The only thing you didn't have to watch was quarterback and possibly running back, right? I think if there's a running back there, fine, whatever. But for the most part, this was really good because you had to keep your eyes on everything. And Steph, I've been to the practices, and I know, you were obviously there, so you can tell the experience. It's hard to keep an eye on everything. The way that I did it when I would go, and I think you and I have been there once, right? Like together, or I don't even think so yet. Like it's just I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you went the year before my first year, and then you haven't gone. We went to the combine though that year.
Right. Oh yeah, and the combine's at the end of the month. Yes. All right, but the way that we would do it is if I'm sitting next to like Croc and Brad. Croc, who are you watching? Brad, what are you watching? I'm going to watch something different, and then we'll compare our notes. Mm-hmm. Kind of like how we did at training camp, right? Like during training camp, there's so much going on, and that's why it's so funny to me because everyone's just like, "Oh, I got everything." No, you didn't. It's impossible. You didn't get everything. You had to dedicate eyes to different ways. But it was cool because again, it just led to the excitement of all the possibilities of the way the 49ers can reload this roster. And there were so many good players. So I want to give you the floor first to start with one player. And it doesn't have to be any position or anything like that. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't as invested in the big boys as I was the wide receivers because I just love watching wide receivers and DB play. I just can't take my eyes off it. I know that the 49ers are not going to draft the guy that I want them to draft, a wide receiver or anything like that. But give me one of the names that you impressed you right away.
That's hella funny because it's like the defensive line, offensive line. That was the biggest draw of the Senior Bowl. So
I don't like watching
hard,
this stuff.
honestly. It was honestly hard to look away at the trenches, and I spent the first day focused on that. That was my goal. The second day, I told myself I was going to pay attention to wide receivers and linebackers and secondary guys. I still paid attention to the trenches. It was hard not to. And then also I wanted to pay attention to what I noticed John Lynch and some of these top 49er guys paying attention to. So, if 2 days in a row they're front and center at, DL, OL 101s, I'm parking my ass there and I'm checking it out because I want to see what they're looking at. And as far as players that, impress me, I agree that this was one of the better, I think, Senior Bowl rosters that we've had in a while because it would almost be easier to ask someone who didn't impress you. Like I think there's so many guys that you can name. As far as, defensive line, I definitely liked Walter Nolan. I definitely think he's an option for the 49ers at 11. So paid attention to him. Mike Green, obviously, although I am paying attention to the rumored, off the field issue that, may eventually come to light before.
Albright brought that up. That's what he said. They said it wasn't the short arms that got people scared about him. It's an off the field thing. We just don't know what that is.
I mean, I could tell you that it's something that I think would take him off the 49ers board, but taking that aside, he did impress, right? He was one of the biggest draws of the Senior Bowl week. I also thought like a couple of guys that, I didn't really know of going into it. I was like, oh, like who's that? David Walker of Central Arkansas. Couple of guys gave him the Samson Ebukam comp. And I could see that he's a little more like stout, smaller guy, but he can win fast. So I definitely liked what I saw from him going into it. And then Oluwafemi Oladejo from UCLA. I got to interview him. So after that, I was paying attention to him a little bit more. And I love his confidence and he was winning quite a bit too. I asked him, who out here is like challenging you? And he said, I wouldn't say anyone. So I just love that. I love that confidence. And again, when I paid attention to him a little bit more, I was like, okay, yeah, he's kind of right. As far as offensive lines, the best guy of the week, I think from the entire Senior Bowl, Gray Zabel, hands down. Yeah. Hands down. He dominated every single day.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think that, because during the game, he struggled, but I agree with you. The reps, he was dominating one-on-one.
So that's interesting, right? So Zabel, yes, he did well, very well in practice all throughout the week going up against the national team. The national team has the better pass rushers, right? So in the game, he was going up against better interior guys, which the American team had.
Savion Jones was killing him, and he's an edge from LSU. They were playing him inside.
Yeah, so I just wonder. That tells you a little bit more, but
what gets valued more? Because those 3 days, I agree with you, 100% the best in the game, and again. The only knock I would say, and because he's flown up the boards now, I don't think he leaves the first round now. So, like, the 49ers might have had a chance at 43 if he didn't raise his stock so much. But I think the concern would be, he went to NDSU. That's a small school. What about those small school linemen, like, against these bigger boys?
Which is exactly why, like, this week or the Senior Bowl week was so big for him. Like, that was the only question people had about him, right? And I think he proved that he could hold up and quite well against, big name and big school guys. And so I think, it was important. He definitely raised his stock. I do agree. He's probably not going to be in the 49ers range, or it would just be even in the second. Like, I don't know if they go for, a guard in the second. I was also talking to Brad about it. I think he said that he sees him more as a right guard in the NFL. And so that would complicate things for the 49ers too. But if he did happen to fall on the 49ers lap, I do also think they would take him. Like, you got to take good players. And yeah, so there are some good offensive linemen too. We mentioned Zabel was, I think, the best one. Another guy who, due to his size, I think needed a really strong Senior Bowl to kind of, alleviate some people's concerns was Willie Lampkin of North Carolina. He's so tiny. He's smaller than Jason Poe. But he was playing at center for much of the week, and he held up well against like all the big guys like that. I don't think it was very often that I saw him lose reps, right? So he was someone that held up well, and I think that'll help his stock too. He also said during Senior Bowl week that he would be willing to, play fullback. So I think suddenly maybe he would be an option for the 49ers.
Oh, no. Not this again.
Remember they tried to have Jason Poe at
I know.
and that didn't work out, but
no.
Willie Lampkin kind of along those lines. But
Kyle,
he was good at
John,
center too.
No. Center. Just no. I don't want to hear that.
Messenger.
I hate when players say that, because Kyle and John are like, tell me more. A player who can play multiple positions.
It's the Lynch gif.
But multiple positions, positionless football, you say? No, man. Just be a good lineman. Don't start this crap. Anybody else, Steph?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few LSU guys that were on the offensive line. I think for the American team, and they were all pretty good. Emory Jones, who I think could be like a later round pick guy. I think he could end up being good value. Jackson Slater, out of Sac State, another small school guy, but someone who I think raised his stock at the Senior Bowl as well, because he also held up well. More of an interior guy, probably a guard. Yeah, there's a lot of guys. Jonah from Arizona. Wow, that rhymed. But I asked one of the defensive line guys, I don't remember who it was right now, but I asked him like who was challenging him. He definitely said Jonah. Marcus Bowe from Purdue. Josh Connerly out of Oregon, good as well. Ariante Ursery. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like I'm naming the entire roster right now, but that is legit. Like, just who the guys that that showed out throughout the week, and I think helped their stock.
And then the other thing about the Senior Bowl is the Senior Bowl isn't all or nothing, right? I think we get carried away sometimes with reps, and we lose sight of the forest by looking at the trees, because you're watching the reps and you're like, oh my God, this guy's ready to go. And it's like, no, the Senior Bowl is one part of the puzzle. You've got the tape,
right?
You've got, how they did during the season, you're going to have the combine, how they test. This is all part of the process. When we start to see people jump out in reps and we're just like, sign that guy right away. It's like, okay, but did you watch him play? You can have someone grab your eye, and that's fine. And that's exactly what this is supposed to do, is supposed to be like, boosting your stock, but it's not the end all be all. Somebody could shit the bed at the Senior Bowl and still end up being a great player. Somebody could go off at the Senior Bowl, and, like Michael Carter went off at the Senior Bowl, and I was just like, oh my God, this guy's going to be an amazing running back. Where's he now? Arizona's practice squad? It happens like that, right? So I think that's what's important about this. But just objectively, like, these are the guys that play. Shamar Stewart also probably, I think, just like blew everybody away. Darius Alexander was looking great in the game. More than anything in the game.
Yeah.
Like, when the game was on, they were cooking, man. But
I like oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You got it.
Oh, I was gonna say I like Azariah Thomas, the Florida State corner as well.
He's not making it. He's not making it out of the first. Like, he's not making it out of the first. No, man. I don't think he's making it out of the first.
To go back to your conversation about, like, people get enamored with Senior Bowl performances and that isn't everything, right? I did a mock draft this morning, highly influenced by the Senior Bowl, by the way. So I admit
but that's what it's always going to be like, especially when you go to those simulators, they're going to be boosted up because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I got Thomas in the 3rd round in that mock, and I was
what?
Like, and they gave me a C for that one. So I was a little mad, but no, I was like, yes, that'd be a great pick. Now, but to go back to that conversation of, all team Senior Bowl. Shamar Stewart, I traded back, got him at 16, and there were people, that were upset about that pick because they were like, Shamar Stewart, didn't do anything in college. He only had like 4.5 sacks, and I was like, you know what? Like, I got to watch the tape. He was killing things at the Senior Bowl. He was awesome, not even in one-on-ones, but also in team period. So good he left early. He didn't play the game.
He was like, I'm good. I don't got to do no more.
That's the other part of it, right? And so I admit, like, I didn't watch his tape. I got to go watch it now and see, where he would fall. But yeah, so I think that's really important context for everyone to keep in mind because, yeah, everyone gets, really distracted, I think, by Senior Bowl performances, Shrine Bowl, like Combine, and suddenly those guys that people are like, oh, there's no way he gets out of the first round, they end up being like a day 2 guy, and you're like, what happened? Well, it's where teams had him ranked in the first place based off of the tape.
Right. And their team needs. Right, like we like best player available, right? We like best player available, but you're not just going to take a best player available if you have someone who's there who fits a need and is a good player, especially in the first round. So that's what's interesting about the whole draft discussion. But I wanted to talk about some of the wide receivers because I'm in my bag when it came to this, man. Yo, Tez Johnson's a fucking baller, and he's undersized, right? So everyone's gonna say, oh, tiny. He's too skinny. I don't know, but man, he is silky route runner, man. Oh my goodness. By the way, watching the wide receiver one-on-ones really, really opened my eyes to the fact that Jalen Milroe is very, very bad, and there's going to be he has a lot of I can't not point out the fact that there's guys running wide open and he's airmailing these things into the stands. And I'm like, my God, dude, how frustrated do you have to be? You get yourself open and the ball's nowhere near you. That's neither here nor there. Tez Johnson from Oregon. Man, I popped on the tape and I looked at the national side first. And the first really nice play that I saw from day one was somebody that I was not familiar with, but I started to dig into. Jalen Noel. He made a play where the first rep, he gets pushed a little bit off his route because he's trying to get an outside release, and he gets out there. And Rob, you could probably find it on my Twitter if you want to pull it up so we can show it. And then he comes back and makes a Sunday adjustment on the ball and keeps 2 feet in. And I'm watching it. I'm like, man, you know what that looks like? That looks like DJ Moore to me. Like, that's the type of route runner he looks like. 6 foot, not huge. Like, I look at him and I'm like, man, I mean, obviously not a need, like right off the bat, you would say. Although we don't know the timetable with Brandon Ayuk and what's going to be the status with Deebo Samuel, I totally expect the 49ers to, still draft the wide receiver. But Jalen Noel jumped out immediately to me. And then, Steph, you got a chance to talk with him, and he went to Iowa State, and he played with Brock Purdy. What were the things that he was saying?
So he played with him for 1 season, his freshman year. And so it was, kind of limited time that they had together. But, he talked about his leadership, his competitiveness. And, those are the things we see of Brock every day as well. And so I asked him, how would it feel to be reunited with Brock? And he said he'd love that. And, typical answer you get. Yeah. But I think definitely would be a fit in San Francisco. And I agree. I think he is someone who made himself some favors at Senior Bowl. He said one thing that he wanted to prove that week was that he can win inside, but he can also win outside. And he was almost exclusively on the outside during Senior Bowl week. And I think he proved he can win there as well. So that was, it definitely helped his stock. The other Iowa State guy, Jaden Higgins, I think had a strong week as well. I did love Tez Johnson. Again, like, I wasn't really paying attention or trying to pay attention to the wide receivers much, just because, again, I don't think it's a huge need. But there's just guys that stand out, right? And Tez Johnson was definitely one of those guys. First, he stands out because he's so small, and you're like, how's this guy going to do? Right. And then you see him just cooking dudes off the line. And he just has a natural ability of getting open. And so suddenly you're not so worried about how small he is. Like, that's why he gets comparisons to Tank Dell and whatnot. And so, I think a team would love to have a Tez Johnson, especially because you see other smaller guys in the NFL having success, and it's not like a burden to that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely think Tez, he's going to be nice. I think another guy, Jack Besh, who had the game-winning
the Senior Bowl
touchdown
MVP,
too, man. Dude, no, he was.
That's
I love his game. I love his game. He's yeah. Go ahead.
No, that's your Puka Nacua from last year. That's
Yeah.
exactly who that is. That's exactly
Like,
who that is. And someone's gonna draft him, and he's gonna go crazy in the league, and we're just gonna be like, "Come on, man!" Like, good. he makes all the catches. You know, if there's what did he say? It's not 50-50 balls. It's 75-25. I'm gonna go get it.
He said that.
Yeah.
He said that.
Yeah.
I love that because that's the exact way when you see him play. That's what it looks like. Exactly that. It's like every ball is his. And I love that about him. Just I was trying to find a good word to like describe his style of play. I guess tenacious was like the best word I can come up with. But
scrappy,
yeah, like
don't do that. Scrappy, what brings his lunch pail? I could. You get where I'm going with this, Jim Rat.
But yeah, I love Jack Besh, and yeah, he'll probably. I'm not sure where he'll go as far as his range, but. Exciting whites.
Oh my god! We didn't have to say the quiet part loud. I thought I was just like tiptoeing the line. But yeah, to your point, Beck made a lot of money as well too. And going back to Tez Johnson, I think a lot of people are like, well, he's too little, he can't. Right? Devonta Smith is as skinny as a rail, and who wouldn't want somebody like that on their team?
He's so skinny.
So there's different ways to skin a cat. What I was really impressed with Tez was the release package to be able to get downfield, run past people, the short area quickness to be able to just get himself open. It's just a joy to watch him, run routes. Again, the only reason he didn't have more catches is because his quarterbacks weren't putting the ball on him, like he literally was beating other people as well too. Clearly somebody who made themselves a lot of money, Elijah Arroyo. He looks incredible, man.
Oh yeah.
Like that guy looks like an Adonis running routes. Like, how is a guy that big? Like, he looks insane, man. Yeah, he made himself a ton of money, man. I think he's absolutely going to be in that tight end 2, tight end 3 discussion behind Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren doesn't have to go to these things at all, right? And I think Jim Nagy talked about that too as well. Like, you have these teams that have been playing deep into the playoffs, and a lot of those guys had to pass on like Senior Bowl stuff or whatever. So, for as much as we talked about how great this was, there was still some players that were left out that probably should have went and could have went. But yeah, Tez Johnson, Jalen Noel, you mentioned T. Higgins' brother, Jaden Higgins. Here's a plan. Trade the entire room for the 49ers, sign T. Higgins, draft Jaden Higgins. We're back, baby. And that's obviously a joke because everybody's going to take that seriously. But yeah, there was a lot of good wide receivers. Beck's story is incredible. Obviously, if you guys didn't know, his brother was killed in the terrorist attack in New Orleans, and he talked about at the end that his brother gave him wings. But that 75-25 comment, I was just like, yeah, that's a dog, man.
That makes so much sense, man. I love that he said that. I'm also at this other one. People are gonna hate it, but I like it.
Mike Williams.
People are gonna hate it. No, Kyle Williams.
Oh, Kyle Williams. Yeah, my bad. Yeah,
Kyle Williams. And
Washington State.
At first, I was like, it's a joke. It's funny, right?
No,
what if the
right.
49ers
it's not a joke.
But like, I was watching like the practice film, right? Because I didn't really notice him the week of. And so I was watching it back, and I'm like, who is this guy? Yeah. Like, he just looks so smooth and natural. And it was Kyle Williams, and I'm like, oh, damn it.
I know.
Not me liking Kyle Williams.
So what's funny is you hear the name, and I want to make a joke as well, too. But then I get into the tape, and I watched him. And again, short area quickness. But what I was impressed with, there was especially a rep where he gets held, by the shirt. And he still is strong enough to break away on an in-breaker and come back and get the ball. He plays violently. He plays quickly. I know, guys, the name, it brings up PTSD. I get it. But yeah, Washington State's Kyle Williams, man, I agree 100%. When I was watching the tape, I was like, man, he's jumping off here a little bit as well, too.
Right.
And just keep him away from punt returns, and we might be all right, man. I think that's what it is. And don't give him number 10. Don't give anyone number 10, like we said, but don't give him number 10. But yeah, Kyle Williams that's a really good one. I'm so glad you brought it up.
I'm glad you agreed, actually, because I was like, Kyle Williams.
I do agree.
Like,
I do agree. Yeah. I don't want to bring it up. I don't want to get blamed for being a troll. But I'm not trolling. Like I'm dead ass. Like the only thing I have to do right now is get into his film, which I'm trying to track down. I've got all like the big schools and everything as well too. But like finding Washington State tape is like I'm gonna have to run around like and
Sure.
call in some favors. Yeah,
I'm gonna find it too. I'm gonna start posting clips, not say his name, and then watch
what
people
if we
start to like him.
What if we start calling him he? Yeah, we could.
Dialogue.
Let's start an agenda. Can we start an agenda? Like, like perhaps the way to cleanse the palate of Kyle Williams is to bring in a good Kyle Williams. And we're gonna start a conversation. I mean, we get into his tape, and if I see some stuff I like, not gonna lie, man, I'm gonna start pushing the agenda. Not to be a troll. All right, maybe to be a troll a little bit, but like I do think he raised his stock a little bit. It's a good troll, yeah, 100%.
It's a troll. It's also true.
Yeah, and I'm not asking for them to like necessarily pick someone who's playing poorly. I think just the name itself, like gives 49er fans a little shaky. So, I guess the best way to talk about it now is you have something. And by the way, if you guys are not familiar, Steph has the tracker for who the 49ers have met with at the Shrine Bowl, at the Hula Bowl, at the Senior Bowl. So, I don't know if that's pinned to your Twitter, but I think that's a good way for you to look at it. Now, there's two ways to look at it, Steph. The 49ers drafted Ricky Pearsall, and they never met with him, right? And I think there's
they did at the Senior Bowl, but it wasn't reported, so we didn't know about it. It was just a brief conversation.
So there's an overarching narrative about the 49ers kind of doing misinformation and saying like, oh, well, they met with this guy a bunch of times and they didn't draft him. Yeah, but you can only draft one player. And it doesn't mean how many times you met with them, right? Like, I think, how many times they drafted people that they have met with and they haven't, like, I think that's the part that we're kind of like missing when it comes to this. But who are some of the guys that we discussed or that you have on your radar that the 49ers met with? Because I know Jalen Noel did as well, right?
Yeah, Jalen Noel did, as did Jaden Higgins. A couple of the tight ends that we know of, Terrace Ferguson out of Oregon, he was nice as well. CJ Dupree, Alabama tight end, who also wears 81. Sign me up.
Oh, no.
Where have we seen that before?
No.
I'm joking, obviously. But Femi Oladejo met with the 49ers twice that week. And then you can assume that everyone who KJ Wright was coaching, had some sort of meeting or didn't even need to meet with the Niners because KJ Wright had been talking to them all week. So I'll say that there's a guy from the Shrine Bowl. I know we don't really talk about the Shrine Bowl, but he cooked at the Shrine Bowl. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, he's a running back from Arizona. So if you watch the Shrine Bowl, he stood out, right? Danny Strigo, who was a late addition, literally last day of practice, he's a walk-on on the field, literally getting off the plane. He comes on, he's warming up as like 7-on-7s are happening. He's trying to join the action. He's an edge out of Minnesota. He met with the 49ers at the Hula Bowl. I just love the fact that he came in there and was just ready to go, ready to play. And yeah, I didn't get a whole lot, honestly, from the Senior Bowl. But there's some good names in there as well. The Canadian quarterback, Taylor Algersma, he met with the 49ers at the CGS All-Star. So he's been going to all these like All-Star games. So he was good. I know we gotta end for the day, but yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. Just make sure you guys check out the draft sheet. It is pinned on my Twitter, Steph49K. So check that out.
Always good stuff, Steph. Again, you crushed it. I'm so proud of you, man. It's always good to to catch up with you. You stuck me with Rob last week, but I'm gonna let it slide. That's fine. Me and Rob, I did the best I could with Rob.
Why are we always making jokes? Yeah, I know.
Do that.
It's like it's just so easy.
We always do that. You left me with Rob joke. It's just like, all right, man, let's take the running joke on here. But yeah, guys, thank you guys for tapping in. Again, make sure you check out the draft sheet from Steph. It's good stuff in there. You find out who the 49ers have met with. You can start to take a look. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the Gold Standard Podcast Network YouTube channel and audio network, wherever you get your audio podcast. Follow Steph on Twitter at Steph49K. Follow me on Twitter at Jason Aponte 2103. Steph, thank you again for all your tireless work. And as always, go Niners. We out here.
Peace.